Arsenal are going to Budapest and the whole world is watching. Let us be honest with each other for a second. When Arsenal fans sat down to watch the second leg against Atletico Madrid at the Emirates on the 5th of May 2026, many of them were quietly terrified. After a 1-1 draw in Madrid, the tie was very much alive. One goal from Atletico and Arsenal would be going home. Again, just like so many painful nights before. But something was different this time. Something in the air felt different. Something in the way this Arsenal squad walked out onto the pitch told a different story. And when Bukayo Saka tapped home that rebound in the 44th minute, turning a parried Leandro Trossard shot into the most important goal of Arsenal's season, the Emirates absolutely erupted. Arsenal had done it. For the first time in 20 years, Arsenal are going to a Champions League final. Read that again slowly. 20 years, 2 full decades. A generation of Arsenal fans have grown up never seeing their club in a European final. Some of those fans were babies when Arsenal last played in the Champions League final back in 2006. And now here we are with a date in Budapest on the 30th of May 2026 and a chance to lift the biggest trophy in club football. This is not just a football story. This is a story about patience, belief, and what happens when a club finally gets everything right. So let us break it all down. How did Arsenal get here? What actually happened against Atletico? What does the final look like? And what on earth does Jurgen Klopp have to do with all of this? How Arsenal beat Atletico Madrid and reached the final. To understand just how big this moment is, you need to remember how the tie started. Arsenal went to Madrid for the first leg knowing that Atletico are one of the hardest teams in Europe to beat on their own ground. Diego Simeone has built a team that defends with everything they have, that fights for every inch, and that never gives up no matter what the score is. Going to the Metropolitano and coming away with anything is a good result. Arsenal came away with a draw 1-1. It was tight, it was hard, and it left everything open for the second leg at the Emirates. Now here is the thing about the Emirates on big European nights. When the atmosphere is right, that stadium can be one of the loudest and most intense places in English football. And on the 5th of May, with Arsenal needing a win to reach their first Champions League final in 20 years, the atmosphere was exactly right. The game itself was the kind of match that takes years off your life if you are an Arsenal supporter. Atletico defended deep and hard. They made it very difficult for Arsenal to find space. The first half was tense and tight, and it felt like one moment of quality could decide everything. That moment came in the 44th minute. Leandro Trossard drove forward and got a shot away. The Atletico goalkeeper got a hand to it but could not hold it. The ball spilled out and Bukayo Saka was right there, cool as you like, to tap it home. 1-0, Arsenal in front. Arsenal ahead in the tie on aggregate. The second half felt like it lasted forever. Atletico pushed and pressed and looked for the goal that would send the tie to extra time. Arsenal defended with everything they had. Mikel Arteta's team showed the kind of defensive organisation and mental toughness that honestly would have been hard to imagine from an Arsenal side just 4 or 5 years ago. When the final whistle blew, the Emirates went absolutely wild. Arsenal had won 1-0 on the night, 2-1 on aggregate, and they were through to the Champions League final. The scoreline tells you what happened, but it does not fully tell you how hard Arsenal had to work to get there, or how much that result means to this club and these fans. The goal that made history, let us talk about Bukayo Saka for a moment, because the young man deserves every bit of praise he gets. Saka scored the goal that sent Arsenal to Budapest. A tap-in, yes, but you still have to be in the right place at the right moment, and Saka always seems to be in the right place at the right moment. Think about what Saka has become for this Arsenal side. He came through the academy, started getting first-team chances under Arteta, and has grown into one of the best wide forwards in Europe. He works hard, he creates chances, he scores goals, and he does all of it with a smile on his face and a level head on his shoulders. On a night when the pressure was enormous, when the entire Arsenal fanbase was holding his breath, Saka stepped up and delivered. He tapped in a rebound that will be shown on Arsenal highlight reels for decades to come. A goal that changed history. A goal that took Arsenal back to the Champions League final for the first time since 2006. Does Bukayo Saka get enough credit for what he means to this Arsenal side? Honestly, the answer might still be no, because beyond the goals and the assists, he gives this team something that you cannot put a number on. He gives them belief. Arsenal in 2006 versus Arsenal in 2026. Here is a question worth thinking about. Is this Arsenal team better than the one that reached the final back in 2006? That 2006 side, managed by Arsene Wenger, was a very good team. Thierry Henry, Robert Pires, Ashley Cole, Jens Lehmann. They went all the way to the final in Paris before losing to Barcelona 2-1. They played some beautiful football along the way and came very close to winning the whole thing. But here is the thing. That 2006 Arsenal side was largely built around 1 or 2 superstar players. Take Thierry Henry out of that team and the dynamic changes significantly. This 2026 Arsenal side feels different. It feels like a proper team in the truest sense of the word. There is quality and depth all over the pitch. There is a clear identity and a clear way of playing, and there is a mental toughness and a belief that took a long time to build but now looks rock solid. Mikel Arteta has done something remarkable at Arsenal. He took a club that was drifting and confused and turned it into one of the best teams in Europe. He gave them an identity, he gave them intensity. He made them believe that they could compete with anyone on any night. The journey to this Champions League final is proof of everything Arteta has built. And the fact that they got through one of the toughest possible opponents in Atletico Madrid in a tight two-legged tie without cracking under pressure says everything about how far this team has come. What happens in Budapest? So here is the situation. On the 30th of May 2026, Arsenal will walk out at the Puskás Arena in Budapest, Hungary for the Champions League final. The Puskás Arena is a stunning stadium. It holds around 67,000 fans and it has already hosted some brilliant matches in recent years, including the Champions League final in 2023. Budapest is going to be an incredible host city for what promises to be one of the biggest matches in world football this year. Kickoff is scheduled for 5 PM BST, which is a little earlier than the usual 8 PM slot. That is a change from the normal routine, but honestly it makes the whole day feel even more like an event. An entire afternoon and evening to soak in the atmosphere before the biggest game. Now the opponent. At the time Arsenal booked their final spot, the other semi-final between Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich was still to be decided. Arsenal will face the winner of that tie. Think about what that means for a second. PSG, Bayern Munich, two of the biggest clubs in European football. Either one of those sides would be an absolutely massive final. PSG have been rebuilding and rebuilding over the years, spending enormous amounts of money trying to win the Champions League. They have come close before. Would this be their year? Bayern Munich are Bayern Munich. Record German champions, multiple Champions League winners, a club with history and quality running through every part of their operation. Whoever comes through that semi-final, Arsenal will know they're in for the hardest test imaginable. But after everything this squad has been through this season, after beating Atletico Madrid over 2 legs, after showing the mentality they have shown, Arsenal will not be afraid of anyone. Here is the big question for you. Which opponent would you rather Arsenal face in Budapest? PSG or Bayern Munich? Both bring different challenges and different styles of play. Think about that one because it is not a simple answer. Jurgen Klopp predicted all of this. Now here is where the story gets really interesting. Back in April 2026, before the semi-final even kicked off, Jurgen Klopp went on record and said something very bold. He predicted that Arsenal would not only win their semi-final against Atletico Madrid, but would go on to win the entire Champions League this season. Klopp said, and these are his words, that Arsenal were not only going to win this tie, but would reach the final and win the Champions League this season. That is a very strong statement from a man who knows exactly what it takes to win this competition. Klopp won the Champions League with Liverpool in 2019. He knows how hard it is. He knows the mental and physical demands. He knows that on any given night, anything can happen, and yet he looked at this Arsenal side and said they would go all the way. Now let's be clear about who Jurgen Klopp is at this point in his career, because there seems to be some confusion about this, even in some of the reporting around his prediction. Klopp is not on a sabbatical. He has not been resting at home watching football on television since he left Liverpool. Since the 1st of January 2025, Klopp has been working as the head of global soccer for the Red Bull Group. That is a very serious executive role. He is in charge of the football operations for the entire Red Bull network of clubs, which includes RB Leipzig in Germany, Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, and New York Red Bulls in the United States, among others. This is not a man sitting on the sidelines. This is a man who is deeply embedded in football at the highest level every single day. On top of his Red Bull role, Klopp has confirmed that he will also be working as a pundit for Magenta TV during the 2026 World Cup, which is being held across the United States, Canada and Mexico. He will be on screen alongside Thomas Müller, the Bayern Munich legend and World Cup winner. That is going to be a brilliant combination. There have also been reports linking Klopp to the Real Madrid head coach job as the Spanish club look for a new manager. But Klopp has denied those rumours and confirmed his commitment to his Red Bull role. His long-term goal, according to reports, is to manage the German national team, though with Julian Nagelsmann currently in the role, he is not rushing anything. So when Klopp made his prediction about Arsenal, he was not some retired pundit looking for attention. He was a man at the heart of elite football, someone who watches and analyses the game every single day. His opinion carries weight, and so far, he has been spot on. Arsenal are exactly where he said they would be. Why Klopp respects his Arsenal side so much? Klopp's prediction about Arsenal did not come out of nowhere. He has been speaking highly of this Arsenal team and Mikel Arteta for a long time now. Going back to his final seasons at Liverpool, Klopp regularly described Arsenal as one of the best teams in the world. He called them a sensational team with an incredible squad. He praised Arteta constantly for the work he has done at the club. One of the most interesting things Klopp said about Arsenal was on the subject of their quality as an opponent. He noted that to cause Arsenal problems, you needed to bring the full package because they are so well organised and have such strong attacking tools. That is high praise from a manager who built some of the most intense and well-organised teams Europe has seen in the last 20 years. Klopp also repeatedly called Arsenal a genuine title contender, not just in the Premier League, but on the European stage. In early 2024 and into 2025, he was consistently saying he expected Arsenal to win their games and that they were a major threat to everyone. What is really striking about Klopp's admiration for Arsenal is that it was always grounded in specifics. He did not just say they were good, he talked about their development, their squad depth, their identity, and the way Arteta had instilled a winning mentality throughout the club. And on the subject of Arteta himself, Klopp has been very clear. He sees Arteta as one of the best managers in the world. He has praised him for bringing purpose and identity to Arsenal, and specifically mentioned the FA Cup and Community Shield wins early in Arteta's tenure as signs that he was building something real at the club. This is worth thinking about for a moment. Klopp and Arteta competed directly against each other for years. Liverpool versus Arsenal was always one of the most interesting tactical matchups in English football. And even as a direct rival, Klopp could not help but praise what Arteta was doing. That tells you something. When your biggest rivals respect you, you know you are doing something right. The moment that changed everything for this Arsenal generation. Let us take a step back and think about the bigger picture here. Arsenal's last Champions League final was in 2006. They lost that final to Barcelona. And in the years that followed, the club went through some very difficult times. They lost players. They struggled to compete with the biggest spenders in the Premier League. They finished outside the top four multiple times. There were trophy droughts that felt like they would never end. For a club of Arsenal's size, history and fan base, that was a painful period. Really painful. And then Mikel Arteta came in. A man who had played for the club, who understood what Arsenal was supposed to feel like, who had a clear vision for what he wanted to build. It did not happen overnight. There were tough moments early in his tenure, results that made people question whether he was the right man for the job. But Arteta kept working, kept building, kept trusting his process. The FA Cup in 2020 was the first real sign that something was changing. Then 2 consecutive Community Shield wins, then back-to-back Premier League title challenges that came agonisingly close. A return to the Champions League knockout stages, and now a place in the final. This is what genuine club building looks like. Not a quick fix. Not throwing money at the problem and hoping it works. Actual building, actual development, actual identity. Arsenal fans who have been through the hard years, who have watched their club struggle and come up short, deserve to enjoy every second of what this team is achieving right now. What would it mean for Arsenal to win in Budapest? Let us dream a little here, because that is what football is for. If Arsenal win the Champions League final on the 30th of May in Budapest, what does that actually mean? It would be the first Champions League trophy in Arsenal's history. The club have never won it. They came close in 2006, losing to Barcelona in the final. They had some brilliant runs in the competition in the Wenger era, but they have never lifted the trophy. To win it now, under Arteta, with this squad after a 20-year wait to even reach a final, will be one of the greatest moments in the club's entire history. Bigger than the unbeaten season in some ways, because the unbeaten season, as remarkable as it was, did not include European glory. Think about what players like Saka, who came through the Arsenal Academy and has never played for anyone else, would feel lifting that trophy. Think about what it would mean for Arteta, who played for the club and then came back to manage them and transform them. Think about the Arsenal fans who never got to see their club win the biggest trophy in club football. If Arsenal win in Budapest, this generation of players and manager will be remembered forever. Not just in Arsenal history, but in the broader history of the game. Is this the year it finally happens? Can Arsenal go all the way? The road to Budapest was not easy. It is worth remembering that Arsenal did not just walk into a Champions League final. The road to Budapest was long and difficult and full of moments where things could have gone wrong. The 2-legged semi-final against Atletico Madrid was the final hurdle, and it was a very hard hurdle to clear. But getting to that semi-final required beating some very good opponents along the way. Atletico Madrid under Diego Simeone are never easy to beat. They are organised, physical, defensively excellent, and they never stop competing. Going to the Metropolitano and drawing 1-1 in the first leg was a serious achievement, and then holding on at the Emirates to win 1-0 and go through on aggregate required real defensive discipline and mental strength. The fact that Arsenal did all of this without losing their heads, without conceding under massive pressure, shows how much this squad has grown. A few years ago, you would have been nervous about whether Arsenal could hold a lead in a high-pressure situation like that. Now they look like a team that knows exactly what it's doing and trusts its own ability. That is the Arteta effect. That is what proper coaching and proper building does for a football club. A question for every Arsenal fan reading this here is something worth thinking about, and we would genuinely love to know what you think. We all know that Klopp predicted Arsenal would win the Champions League this season, and we all know that Arsenal have backed up part of that prediction by reaching the final. But the job is only half done, so the question is this. Do you believe Arsenal can win the Champions League final? Not just hope, not just dream, but actually believe it in your gut, based on everything you have seen from this squad this season. Think about the performances, think about the mental strength shown against Atletico, think about the quality that Arteta has built across this squad. Think about the belief that players like Saka and the rest of the team seem to carry into every game, and then ask yourself, is this Arsenal team capable of beating PSG or Bayern Munich on the 30th of May in Budapest and lifting the Champions League trophy for the first time in the club's history? We think the answer matters, because belief is not just something fans feel. It travels, it reaches the players, it becomes part of the atmosphere. And on a night as big as a Champions League final, atmosphere and belief can make all the difference. What Arteta has built and why it matters. You cannot talk about this Arsenal journey without talking at length about Mikel Arteta. Here is a man who played for Arsenal, who learned his trade under some of the best managers in the world, who came back to his club with a clear vision and the courage to stick to it even when things were hard. When Arteta took over in December 2019, Arsenal were in a difficult place. The transition from the Wenger era had been messy. The club had signed too many players who did not fit, spent too much money without a clear plan, and lost the identity that had made them one of the most exciting clubs in England for so many years. Arteta came in and immediately started building an identity, intensity, organisation, belief, and a clear style of play. He made tough decisions. He moved on players who did not fit. He brought through young players and gave them opportunities. He created a culture of hard work and accountability. The FA Cup win in 2020, beating Chelsea in the final, was the first real signal that something was changing. Then the Premier League title challenges came, then the Champions League knockout runs, and now the final. Klopp called Arteta someone who had brought a clear identity, purpose and winning mentality to Arsenal, and that description is exactly right. This Arsenal team knows who it is, it knows how it wants to play, it knows what it stands for. That clarity is incredibly rare in modern football, where managers come and go quickly and clubs constantly change direction. Arteta has been allowed to build something real at Arsenal, and that building has produced a team that is now 90 minutes away from becoming European champions. The Budapest final is bigger than football. Here is the thing about moments like this. They transcend the sport itself. When Arsenal run out at the Puskas Arena on the 30th of May, they will not just be representing themselves or even their fans. They will be representing every team in English football that has ever gone close to winning the Champions League and fallen short. They will be representing the idea that patience and building and believing in a process can actually work, even in a sport that is increasingly dominated by money and quick fixes. Arsenal have spent significantly over the years, yes, but they have also developed their own players, built a genuine team identity, and invested in a manager who believes in what he is doing. The result is a squad that feels like more than the sum of its parts. When Saka scored that goal against Atletico, when the Emirates erupted, when Arsenal secured their place in the final, it was about more than just one game or one season. It was the result of years of work, sacrifice and belief. That is the kind of story that reminds you why football matters in the first place. Can Arsenal finish the story in Budapest? Absolutely they can. Jurgen Klopp thinks so. And after everything you have seen from this Arsenal team this season, do you really want to bet against them? One final thought before Budapest. 20 years is a long time in football. Think about everything that has happened in those 20 years. Multiple managers, trophies won and trophies missed, years of struggle and years of hope, players who came and went, fans who kept showing up no matter what. And through all of it, Arsenal kept going. The club never stopped trying to get back to where they belong. The fans never stopped believing that one day they would be here again. That day is now here. On the 30th of May 2026, Arsenal will play in the Champions League final in Budapest. They have a chance to win a trophy that this club has never won on the biggest stage in club football in front of the whole world. Bukayo Saka is ready. Mikel Arteta is ready. This squad is ready. Are you ready? Because Budapest is waiting and history is there to be made. Come on, you Gunners.